My name is Julia Sibiya. I'm an associate professor of plant breeding at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg, South Africa. So when you talk of agriculture, people quickly think, oh, farming, you're doing manual things and whatever. So in the end, you don't get many students coming to fields in agriculture because they are not aware agriculture is actually a science, a real science that you're focusing on. I would like to actually raise awareness on the importance of agriculture, especially with the challenges that we are facing, which are affecting food insecurity and malnutrition, which is a reality actually in most African countries. And so we need to address this, and we need people who can address this. So if we can train more scientists who can work to address these problems, then the better. I'm really passionate about having more people come to agricultural sciences.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.
Welcome to the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science seminar series. This seminar has interpretation available in English, Spanish, French, and Hindi. We invite you to follow us in LinkedIn, YouTube, and social media using the hashtag Women in Science for the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science seminar series. We invite you to submit your questions and comments on Slido to be addressed in the Q&A session right after the presentation and conversation with our distinguished speaker of today. We will be hearing today from a plant breeder and passionate advocate for mentorship in agricultural science, Julia Sibiya, and an associate professor in plant breeding and the current dean and acting head of the School of Agricultural, Earth, and Environmental Sciences, and the co-director of the Center for Transformative Agriculture and Food Systems at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. Julia Sibiya, we have a conversation with Ans Mbugua Gitonga, Market Strategist at CIMMYT Sustainable Agri-Food Systems Program. Mbugua Gitonga works with scientists across all disciplines on informing the product design process with the aim of improving product adoption. Mbugua Gitonga has extensive private sector experience and in market segmentation, market needs, trends identification, business and project planning and development, as well as market strategies development and execution. Mbugua Gitonga has an MA in environmental planning and management from the University of Nairobi, and she is also a marketing and sales excellence qualified professional on their INSEAD Business School. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Brian Gobards, Director General of CIMMYT, to officially open the event and introduce our distinguished speaker, Dr. Julia Sibiya. Dr. Gobards, over to you.
Good day, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And once again, welcome to Catalyst of Change, Women Leaders in Science webinar. As you know, at CIMMYT, we launched a TED Talk meets Fireside Chat style series on women leaders last year because we are convinced that we want more women leaders in science institutions like ours. To achieve this goal of broader representation and gender balance in science, we need to provide more opportunities to hear from women leaders, their life journeys, their insights, their lessons learned. Therefore, in this series, we not only highlight women that are leaders in all sorts of capacities, their fields and disciplines, in their village, on the global stage, but we also listen to a conversation between a woman leader from out there and a woman leader from within our own CIMMYT organization. Therefore, today we're very honored to have Julia Sibiya as our Catalyst of Change speaker. Professor Julia Sibiya is an associate professor in plant breeding and the current dean and head of the School of Agriculture, Earth and Environmental Science at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And this, of course, in South Africa. And she's also the co-director of the Center for Transformative Agriculture and Food Systems. Sibiya received her BSc honors degree in crop science from the University of Zimbabwe, a Master's of Science in Plant Pathology from the Iowa State University in the US, and a PhD in plant breeding from the University, once again, of KwaZulu-Natal. Sibiya has over 30 years of experience in teaching and research and has graduated more than 80 MSCs and PhD students from various African countries. She's one of the founding members of the African Plant Breeders Association, which is a network of plus minus 500 plant breeders and scientists from related disciplines. And she therefore serves as its current president until December 2025. Sibiya is also a driver behind the Vision for Adapted Crops and Soils capacity building project that CIMMYT-'s leading, an initiative that we have developed together with the US State Department, the African Union, and the UN FAO, or Organization for Food and Agriculture, the FAO, to foster resilient agri-food systems across the African continent. Sibiya serves on the oversight committee of the VACS Breeding, the steering committee of the CGIAR Collaborative Breeding Leaderships Program, and is a member of the advocate team for the Borlaug Training Foundation. Therefore, I'm sure that we will enjoy and learn a lot from Sibiya's outstanding leadership experience, and therefore, without further ado, over to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bram. Thank you, Isabel, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening from wherever you are joining us. I want to thank CIMMYT, especially SIG, who encouraged me to participate in this series. It is indeed an honor for me. I hope that I will be able to inspire at least one or more people with my life story. At the University of KwaZulu-Natal, we have a slogan that says, inspiring greatness. So I hope I can inspire at least one person. I want to say that I did find it a bit challenging to compress my life journey or my story into 20 minutes. Because the more I started reflecting, the more lessons actually came to mind. So I'm going to share my presentation regarding my journey.
तो मैं अपनी यात्रा के बारे में अपना प्रेजेंटेशन प्रस्तुत करने जा रही हूँ.
Okay, so like I said, I hope I'll be able to inspire at least one person with my journey. I'll be sharing some moments, memories, and milestones in my journey, trying to unveil the journey that has really shaped me. To just start off with, I want to just share what I call my truth. I say it's my truth because I've heard a number of people saying there are multiple partial truths out there. So it might be my truth and it might be a partial truth to someone, but for me, it is my truth. And I just want to say that how you turn out in life or what voice you listen to is your choice. You actually have the freedom to choose. So do not blame it on anyone or your background, where you grew up, what family you were raised in. It's a decision that you actually make. You decide whether you want to remain on the ground or you want to stand up and start moving. So you can actually change the trajectory of your life. You can change the direction of your life. So this afternoon, I'll be sharing some of my milestones, memories, achievements that have actually changed the direction of my life, regardless of where I started from. So setting the scene, who am I? I'm sure there are some in the call that know me, know my background, but many of you do not know my background. So I was born and raised in Zimbabwe, and I am number 9 in a family of 10. So being number 9, there's nothing special about you. You are right at the end of the pack. And I grew up in a township in Harare, in the eastern suburbs or high density suburbs of Harare. So this is where I grew up. This is our house. It was a 2-bedroomed house, semi-detached or semi-detached house.
These are my parents. That's my dad, who's late, and my mom. My mom is 97 now. She's turning 97 actually this coming August, God willing. So these are the two people who raised me. And like I said, there was nothing special about me. There was nothing special about our family. We were just an ordinary family in the township. My dad had basic education. She had a job. My mom was not so privileged to be educated. So she did run her own businesses. So she was self-employed. And I remember very well, like after Zimbabwe got independent, my mom enrolling for adult education, going to evening classes, just because she wanted to learn how to read and to write. She wanted to sign on her own bank account because she was running her businesses. So that really sort of motivated me to just see, you know, how passionate she was also about education. Like I said, our family wasn't really special, but our parents made it a point that everyone had equal chances to better themselves. So it's the choices that you then made that paved your way or showed the direction that you would go. So I was educated. My primary school I did in the township that I grew up, and this is the school that I went to. And being number 9 in the family, I was in the shadow of my older siblings, but I wanted to measure up to, you know, to them. Some of them were really good. So I didn't want to be the outlier. So I did my very best so that I could also be seen and be recognized, although I was number 9. So in school, I was good academically. And it was at this primary school that my leadership potential was actually recognized, because I remember when I was in 5th grade, I was actually nominated to be a class rep for my home economics class. And then when I was in 6th grade, I was also selected to be a prefect. I mean, we followed the British system. So I was a prefect in 6th grade, which was unusual because prefects were mainly selected from the 7th graders, but I was selected a prefect in 6th grade. And by the time I was in 7th grade, I was actually the head girl of the school. So at that time, it didn't really mean much to me. You know, it was just something because I was good academically. I was a well-behaved child. I mean, we had been raised in a Christian family. Christian values, integrity, honesty were top. So that was me. After my primary school, I went to a high school boarding school. It was one of the best at that time, which was outside of Harare, called Goromonzi High School. So I spent 6 years there doing my my high school from what we called O level to advanced level, following the British system. And it was in high school that I actually discovered that I loved science. I was also very good in maths and science. And 2 of my teachers were female teachers, and they were excellent teachers who taught mathematics and sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics. So in them, I could actually see myself and like, wow, if these ladies can make it, I can also make it and have a career in science. So that was me then. So now this is me. I'm a professor in plant breeding. I'm married. I have 2 children. My son is turning 25 this year. My daughter is turning 22 this year. And for some reason, I have influenced their career path, because they all ended up choosing doing degrees that have genetics in them. So I'm not sure whether they copied from me or it was just their own choice as well. And I am the African Plant Breeders Association president. I'm still continuing with research and capacity development. This is me discussing with my master's students, and this is me in the field with one of my PhD students. So this is me now. And how did I get here? This is what I will be walking you through the path that has led to where I am now. And I'll start with my the education path that I followed. So initially, agriculture was not in my vocabulary. I never wanted to work with plants. Having grown up in a township, no, you would never hear anyone saying, when I grow up, I want to be in agriculture. The things were, when I grow up, I want to be a nurse, a teacher, a doctor. Those were the careers that were, top in the townships. So for me, I wanted to pursue a career as a medical doctor. But then I discovered, when I was in high school, the competition was so high because at that time, I think the University of Zimbabwe was the only university with a medical school where you could go and study. So the competition was very high, and I didn't make the points to get into medical school. We were also fortunate at that time that the University of Zimbabwe would invite high schoolers to go for an open day, and then we had a chance to move around to check what was happening in the different faculties, and that's when I discovered I can actually do agriculture. So I opted for agriculture. So I did my Bachelor of Science at the University of Zimbabwe, and that was also the time that my life intersected with CIMMYT. In 1987, I got an internship with CIMMYT. And at that time, Dr. Steve Waddington was in charge of the Harare station. And when I went to CIMMYT for my internship, I can remember vowing that I will never do plant breeding. Why? I hated the pollen. We were doing a lot of pollinations in the maize fields. I also hated working during the weekends. Sometimes we would work on Saturday. Sometimes we would work during public holidays, because as a breeder, you don't have control on when the plants decide to flower. So I said I'll never be a plant breeder. So I opted for to study viruses instead, because CIMMYT was screening for maize streak virus at that time, and there was no virologist at the University of Zimbabwe, and at that time in Zimbabwe there was no one trained in plant virology. So I did a project with CIMMYT on maize streak virus, and my mentor from the University of Zimbabwe, the late Dr. Desiree Kaur, who was the plant pathologist then, she encouraged me to pursue a career in plant virology, and she actually assisted me in getting a fellowship, Rockefeller Foundation fellowship, to go and study overseas. That was huge for me. One, I was the first one in my family to have a university degree, and now I have a fellowship to go to America. Back then, it was rare to go overseas, and the world did not really become like, a global village like it is now. So this was big, and coming from the township, now you're going to America. My family actually threw a huge party for me, a farewell party, to go to the States to do my master's. So I went to the Ohio State University, worked with one of the best maize virus group under Prof. Don Gordon. And then I actually also learned a lot. That's when I learned how to accept criticism, because my advisor, Prof. Don Gordon, was very, very strict, and he was a perfectionist. And I remember I used to go to his office and complain a lot when he would go through some of the stuff that I was writing. And but then he would sit down with me and explain things. And I learned a lot from him. And from there, I'm also almost like a perfectionist when I do my stuff. Then after I did my master's, I went back to Zimbabwe, and I continued trying to better myself. And I also did a course in seed pathology at the Danish Government Institute of Seed Pathology for Developing Countries, where I then did some I worked with seed-borne viruses and seed-borne bacteria, and I got a certificate for that. When you are in academia, also you need to eventually have a PhD, because at that time I had a master's and I joined the academic staff at the University of Zimbabwe. So I needed a PhD, and I decided to go to South Africa the African Center for Crop Improvement for my PhD training. The challenge then was I had been married and my children were small. My daughter was 2 and my son was 5. But I had to do this PhD. So this picture is just showing us, it was just 1 week when we had arrived at the African Center for Crop Improvement. That was the most challenging thing because my husband was still in Zimbabwe. I did not have any extended family to support me. And the ACCI program was like you had 2 years coursework and then 3 years research. And when we were doing coursework, we also had exams that we needed to write and you had assignments and all that. So that was a lot for me without any support. But I learned quite a number of things then. I learned to prioritize my tasks. I learned to manage my time and have time for my kids. So they didn't even know that mommy was studying because I had time for them. And I also learned to build relationships or to establish relationships. Then those people could actually assist you or support you when you needed the support. So I learned a number of lessons and I continued trying to better myself even after the PhD. And with plant breeding, we all know that technologies are developing fast and the things are changing. So you need to be on top of your game. So I needed to continue bettering myself, skilling myself so that I could, be effective in my breeding. And so I did join the University of California, Davis African Plant Breeding Academy, where I learned more new techniques then. And eventually when I took up some leadership roles, I also discovered that I needed additional training, leadership training. So I did attend a number of training courses to just assist me with the leadership roles that I had. So that was my journey in terms of my education. Then in terms of my career now, after I finished my bachelor's degree, my first job was a teaching/research assistant at the University of Zimbabwe. And there I was assisting with plant pathology and agronomy courses. And so that was then I did spend like a year then. And then in 1990, I then went to the States to do my master's. When I finished my master's, I went back to Zimbabwe and I got a huge grant from the Rockefeller Foundation. So this was almost like for me to continue because I had got this training and I needed to start the work. And so I needed to set up a lab for virus work, get some pieces of equipment to get me started. And then I started doing some maize virus surveys for especially for the Mashonaland region, and to teach on plant virology and also to advise on plant viruses. So during that time, I also got to know quite a number of staff from CIMMYT. I think that's when I got to know Kevin Pixley. I think he had also moved to the Harare station. And I remember going with him at one time to Mzarabani, where the Lowveld area, to just look at some of the maize that was there to just see if there were some virus infections. And I spent from 1995 to 2004 as a lecturer in plant pathology in the University of Zimbabwe. So I was mainly responsible for plant viruses and bacteria. So supervising students, teaching, and also working on my research, which included looking at the foliar diseases as well as the seed-borne pathogens. And when I finished my PhD in South Africa, the director for the African Center for Crop Improvement told me that he didn't want me to go back to Zimbabwe. He wanted me to join the center. So I joined the center as a postdoc to begin with, before I became a lecturer in plant breeding. So at that time, I was assisting mostly with scientific communication. And I was also responsible for writing reports to the funders and So that was very important training as well for me with scientific communication. Then it teaches you, it assists you in your publications and assisting the students. And then I was also involved with a project that was funded by AGRA called Improved Masters in Cultivar Development for Africa. So this project mainly focused on training what we called industry-ready graduates. So it had a mandatory internship built in to the program. So for UKZN, we had our students doing internships between 6 to 12 months, where we would place them like with a CGs or with a private seed company or with a NAS that had an elite breeding program, so that they could learn the whole breeding pipeline from start to finish. And so this actually assisted when they graduated, they would go straight and start working. So a lot of our students ended up joining the CG, the private seed companies, as well as the NAS, and some went on to do their PhDs. And here I worked with Prof. John Derrera on the IMCDA initially as a co-manager. And when John left, I then became the manager of the program. And we were working in collaboration with Iowa State University, as well as Makerere University in Uganda, and the Kwame Nkrumah National University of Science and Technology in Ghana. And that very year, 2015, I was promoted to senior lecturer. And then when I joined the African Plant Breeding Academy, we formed a consortium as well that with some of my colleagues who were also on the program, and we submitted a proposal to the EU, and we got funding to train further students in breeding of orphan crops, the African orphan crops or underutilized crops, which have now been rebranded to opportunity crops. So there we were working, it was a partnership of 5 African universities and a university in Europe. And so it has been quite a fulfilling journey. And it was also in 2016, when we were in the African Plant Breeding Academy, that the groundwork for the African Plant Breeders Association started. The idea had started before, but nothing really materialized. So we took up that idea and we started working with it and running with it. And I just want to say thank you to Professor Rita Mam. She has also been quite inspirational in my life, and she really pushed us. I worked closely with a colleague of mine from the University of Abomi Kalavi, Enoch Achigandako, on the groundwork for African Plant Breeders Association. I mean, we interacted with a lot of breeders on the continent. We went to the NAPB in America. I also went to the PAG, also talking about African Plant Breeders Association. And eventually we launched the African Plant Breeders Association in 2019 in Accra, Ghana. And Prof. Eric Dangwa became the first president, and I was the vice president of the association. And that very year, also 2019, I was promoted to associate professor, and I was also appointed as an academic leader for what we call production sciences. So academic leader is synonymous to a head of department. So I was in charge of plant pathology, plant breeding, horticulture, crop science, and animal science, which are production sciences. And initially, I didn't want this role, because when it was advertised, I just saw, okay, I do meet the minimum requirements, but for me, maybe because of some people that I've interacted with, where I thought, you really need to be outstanding for you to, to become a leader or to become something. So if I just meet the minimum requirements, to me, I'm fine. I will not take up the position. But I was encouraged by others who have seen the potential in me, and I applied and I got appointed. And in 2023, fast forwarding, there was also a vacancy in the school, in our College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science. And at that time, I didn't want again to apply for this position or to express interest. but because I had been very vocal, like that we have very few women leaders, we need more women leaders. So I was very vocal on that. So our HR actually came to me and say, yes, you've been vocal on this. There is an opening, you need to apply. And so in the end, I did apply and I got appointed as the dean and head of school. And the school is really complex, but I've learned a lot, and working with people who are really diverse, and some of the disciplines are also, I mean, we have geography and geology in there as well. So it's been quite something, and you learn a lot. And also the same year, 2023, during our October conference in Morocco, I was elected president of the African Plant Breeders Association. So now it's second president, also the first female president of the association. And we're still going strong with the association. And we will be having our 4th conference in Zimbabwe next year in October. So this is an invitation that I'm extending to some of you who are on this call to attend. Then I was also invited as an expert to the Vision for Adapted Crops and Soils, which was also huge for me. When you start to be recognized internationally and nationally, I mean, that's quite an achievement. So I participated in the 2 workshops in Rome and in New York as well for the VACS. And fast forwarding to 2024, I was also appointed as the co-director of the Center for Transformative Agricultural and Food Systems in the university. And then my life intersected with SIG's life. I think SIG was responsible for the CIMMYT-led VACS capacity, and she was looking for someone from University of KwaZulu-Natal, and someone managed to bring us together, and it's been quite rewarding working with her. And for me, I have a passion for capacity development, and this is just an opportunity for me even to work with more scientists, developing them, also just focusing on these opportunity crops. And I'm hoping to become the project lead in CIMMYT. So hopefully I'll be joining CIMMYT soon. And I was also invited to be part of the VACS Breeding Oversight Committee and the steering committee for the collaborative breeding leadership program under the 1CG. And I'm an advocate for the Borlaug Training Foundation. So this has been quite some journey for me. And I have to say, I'm enjoying it. And there are a lot of things that I keep learning. And there are some achievements that I can say I have achieved, especially when you see your students graduating. It's one of the biggest achievements for anyone who is involved in training. And when you see them taking up leadership roles, then you know you've done something. And my postgraduate students have actually given me a nickname of scientist mom. And I actually think it's a fitting title for me, because I just, when I'm training them, I'm not just imparting technical knowledge, but I try to, to be involved in their lives, to give them advice emotionally, and to make sure they have the soft skills that they need as well, and to develop the whole person. So they have coined me their scientist mom. And also there are a number of things that I've learned, which have formed part of my leadership style. I have this quote from Winston Churchill that, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So sometimes we fail, but like I said, you make a choice to stand up and start moving again. So there are many things, like you have to remain positive. I've maintained a positive attitude. I remember someone asked telling me one time that, you know, I've observed you for 2 weeks. We were in a mission in Benin. This person, I just met them during that mission, and they were saying, for the past 2 weeks, I've never seen you. I've seen you smiling all the time. How do you do it? I mean, things were harsh, but I try to maintain a positive attitude and try to see something positive in other people as well. I've learned to prioritize. I know that integrity and honesty are really important for a leader. You need to strive for excellence. You need to build relationships and collaborations. And in my position as the dean and head of school, I have to trust my team, and I also have to learn to delegate. You have to manage your time. You have to sift negative voices, remain apolitical, but your well-being is also very, very important. So look after yourself, and to avoid burnout, and mental well-being is important. And above all, be a good listener. I've tried to listen to those that are below, those that I'm leading, and be a good listener, empower them, equip them, and give them room to grow. So I've learned a lot in these positions. And I think I can stop here and then just give time during the conversations to unveil some of the things that I've learned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sibiya, for sharing your very inspiring story. And hello, everyone. My name is Agnes Gitonga. I'm a member of CIMMYT's Women in Crop Science group, and it's an honor to have a conversation with Dr. Sibiya on her career journey as a woman in crop science. And as you've heard and you've seen, she's been a trailblazer in the agricultural sector research space. And this serves as an inspiration to many. To start us off, Dr. Sibiya, from your introductory video, I picked your passion to see more people join agricultural science. So my question is, what are your thoughts on how we can get young people interested in agricultural science for purposes of continuity and sustainability? And on the same breath, what might be the possible barriers at the moment that could hinder the same? And you talked about hearing children say, when I grow up, I want to be other careers, but how can we change them to have also children say, when I grow up, I want to be in agricultural sector?
Okay, yeah, it's a mammoth task to try and get students coming to fields in agriculture. Not just agriculture, I think it's the whole STEM. It's really a huge challenge. But like what we've been doing at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, I think like for the STEM, they actually go out to schools where they have shows where they are demonstrating what happens in sciences. So like from us in universities, I think we have to be proactive, go to schools, talk to them. They don't understand what agriculture is, because I actually observed that, like when we had an open day where one of the learners was asking, what are the requirements for me to join agriculture? And I was telling them, then it's like, what? You need maths to be in agriculture? So I just thought agriculture was farming and you don't need anything else. And so we really need to go out, to be proactive, to talk to the youth, and to make agriculture exciting, to just show that we can bring technology as well, because most of them, they are going for computer sciences, they are going for which they think is, the in thing. But we also use those same softwares, computers, smartphones, and everything in agriculture. So it's just going out there and just showing them what we have in agriculture, what we can use, that agriculture is a science. You can apply all these modern technologies, because for me, I wanted to do medicine, as I said, but then I realized that most of the technologies that are being used in agriculture, they are also being applied in medicine, studying animals, studying people. So it's the same, but people, they don't understand. So we need to be proactive and go out there and talk to the youth, talk, show them what they can do. They can still use those technologies in agriculture. So I think we can be proactive, and we might be able to win them. Like for me, in some of my classes, because I would see a lot of students on their gadgets in class. Then I'm like, okay, how can I use that as a tool for teaching, where they can go to their smartphones, but they are learning as well. So it's just being creative and taking it out there to them. And you said, what are the possible barriers? So I think for me, the most barrier is ignorance. They don't know what is actually involved, and we have to be vocal. We have to go out there and show them what is actually involved, and to just remind them that everyone needs food. They need to eat. Even if you're an engineer, you're a doctor, whatever career you have, you need to eat. And we are the ones who are responsible for that, and we need to bring quality food on their tables. So to just make it exciting, and yeah, I think that's what I can say. I'm not sure what else you had asked.
Thank you
I
for
just
that.
get so passionate about it. Yeah.
The passion can be seen. Now, looking at your profile, you wear so many hats and very influential positions still within the agricultural sector. So my question with regards to the various hats that you've worn, looking at the university, looking at the VACS project, looking at your involvement with the African Plant Breeders Association, what are the main highlights and growth you have witnessed in the agricultural sector that you see now compared to the 30 years ago since you joined the agricultural space?
Okay, so there have been a lot of advancement, like sort of in technologies, and 30 years back, we were just on our conventional breeding, and slowly taking 10, 15 years to release a variety. But now, I mean, with all the technologies and everything, you can release a varieties much faster. And so there are a lot of highlights that I can say, and I've seen a lot of breeders starting to collaborate, or a lot of scientists starting to collaborate, and it is very important, because one thing that I've observed is a lot of the problems that we work with, they are biotic stresses. A lot of them, they don't have any boundaries. If you're working with a disease, it doesn't have a boundary. So we used to work in silos a lot in the past, but now I've seen, a lot of breeders coming together, collaborating on a number of projects, and just realizing that we can share knowledge and we can move things faster if we share. And if I check, what is a breeder in Zambia, maybe they've done this, instead of me reinventing the wheel, maybe I can share some germplasm with them and move faster. So there are a lot of things that have happened which were not happening then. And I think we've also witnessed, I don't know what's happening in the CGs, but you have the one CG, which wasn't there. There's a lot of mechanization and a lot of, new technologies, sustainable agriculture and all that, which are coming into fore. So there is a lot of growth. All these transformative agricultural and food systems that we are seeing, like the coming in of the opportunity crops. These were like our grandmother's crops, mother's crops. I know we call them orphan crops, we call them underutilized crops, but now we are seeing there is opportunity in those crops. Those crops are also quite nutritious, and we can diversify our diets. And but the thing is, even that, like for Africa, we're still sort of lagging behind. And I mean, we have the greatest percentage of arable land. in the world, but we still have the highest population of that is malnourished and food insecure. So although things have improved, I think we still need to work together more and more, so that we can try to solve some of the the problems that we are facing on the continent. So there are some highlights, a lot of technologies that have come that can assist us in getting products much faster on the market.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And as a follow-up to that, now, still within the same scope of time, what has changed throughout your career for women in leadership?
Yeah, for women in leadership, I don't know if there is much that has changed, because I was just looking at myself, and I'm the dean and head of school. In our college, there are 7 deans and then the deputy vice chancellor. So there are 8 of us, and I'm the only woman in that, out of all those, 7. And there are a number of committees where I've been, and I'm the only woman. So I think there is some change, but I think we need more change. We need more change, and we need more women into these leadership roles. And maybe they're also like me, where you're happy leading from the back of the pack or from the middle, but I think we probably need to go in the fore and start to have our voices heard, because I think most of the farmers that we have are still women farmers. And so if as women leaders, we can also be in the fore and encourage, and we might be able to change a lot of things and a lot of systems as well. But yeah, something has changed a little bit. And I think a lot of men, they respect women now. In our cultures, women are supposed to be at the back and not to be leaders. But we are starting to see a lot more women taking up leadership roles. So that's a huge change that I've also seen. And yeah.
Okay. Still on the issue of women being in leadership, there are several studies on gender in science research that have shown balancing of family and work obligation as one of the most often cited reasons why women in science are not taking up a leadership role. From your own experience, how have you managed personally? And what advice would you give young women in science research who have ambitions to grow into leadership positions?
Yeah, that's a big one. Trying to balance family and work. From my personal experience, like I said, firstly, I did my PhD when my kids, one was 2 and the other one was 5, and I was alone and but you learn and establishing relationships, getting support from others is very important. And I've also learned that it's what can I say? When we are in a male-dominated field, or like most women, most fields, they are dominated by men. And as women, we still have to compete with them. Like here in the universities, promotion, we are judged the same. When it comes to promotion, you have to perform just like the man who is next to you, but you have other responsibilities. You have children, you have all that. So what I've learned is you can do it. What you need is just to, get together with other women and support each other. I think that's what I did when I started. I had other women who were in similar positions like me. So we would sort of exchange. Maybe one day I'm the one who's picking all the kids from school, and I have them until she finishes whatever she's doing, or the next day it's her. So getting together with other women who are in a similar situation like you, they tend to identify more with you, and then you give each other support. So it's a matter of having support. And for me, I was also fortunate that my husband was also very supportive, and which sometimes doesn't happen that often. And then also, I remember when I came for my PhD, at that time, I was told, the scholarship is just for you and not for anyone else. And I had small kids. I wanted to bring them. So then I said, I'm going to speak to the director and tell him that, I've got kids, I'm bringing them. Although you're saying the scholarship is for you, for just one person. And if I had remained silent, nothing would have changed. So I did speak up. And he said, no, that's fine. You can bring them, and then you can look for accommodation wherever you want. And whatever support we are giving to the others, we will give you that support. And then I raised it again with the one who was responsible for the scholarship from the Rockefeller Foundation side. And I said, why you are not getting more women in coming for PhDs is because the scholarship is not friendly at all. You need to take care of women, and also to understand that some of them have small children. Some of them, they want to go back home to look at the kids that they have left. So I think we need more support. One, supporting each other as women, and also to voice, to speak up. I think it's important to speak up and be heard, and where we think there are some sort of injustice, speak up, and things can change. So for me, I do understand women, and maybe that's why I also like this career in academia, because we have got freedom as well. We are not supposed to be from 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 at work, as long as you are performing. So that also gave me time, to go pick my kids, to drop them, and the like. So if we can fight for some sort of flexibility also for women in workplaces. So for anyone who wants to follow suit, I think I find other women that are in the same position as you are and get support. So that's what I can say.
Great. Thank you very much. I had many more questions, but I'd also like to give my colleagues an opportunity to ask you questions. And so I'll end it there. And just to let you know, this has been very inspiring. And indeed, this afternoon, you've inspired greatness. Over to you, Isabella.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Angs, for having this conversation with Professor Julia. So now we would like to open the floor for questions and from the audience. We invite you to raise your hand and turn on your camera and unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question or comment, or you can submit it via Slido. Right now, we have several congratulations messages for you, Professor Sibiya, for your outstanding career and really amazing milestones that you have achieved, and for sharing with all of us your personal experiences. We have one question from Janet. So Janet, would you be ready to open your micro and your camera? Janet Lewis. Okay. Oh, she doesn't have permission. Okay, colleagues.
Hello. Okay, I'm unmuted at least.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Julia Sibiya, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And it's just amazing to see the different positions that different roles that you've been in, and both with your family and as well as professionally, and through your education. I did, okay, so I'm able to get my camera as well. I did include this in Slido, and I will say, just, it's a little vulnerable for me even to bring this up, but I recently learned that there's been decades of research in the United States, at least, I think, with that focus, showing that there's been cultural pressure regarding basically girls and women being in support roles and taking care of people rather than sharing what they know. And so there's been this, there's this cultural pressure to not share your mind so much, but to be in a support role. And I would say myself, I mean, to be honest, like I think I've adjusted how I approach people over time because of that cultural pressure and what is acceptable culturally. And it sounds like you mentioned that in your own culture that you see this support function as well being very promoted for women and not so much in the leadership role. And I didn't know if you had anything additional to mention regarding that. I think for myself in the United States, I didn't really expect this as a US person. I didn't see this when I was young, and then I started realizing it over time through trial and error. Do you have any additional thoughts about that? Thank you very much.
Yeah, you are very right. And maybe in the African cultures, it's probably even worse, where like in the African culture, they used to have, they call them, where men only will be invited, and men will make decisions and the like. But for me, I've seen that, and I've been trying to encourage girls or encourage ladies. And so what I've done is purposely, most of my students, if you look at the number of students that I have, purposely I have probably 60% or 70% are women, and it's deliberate. So that I can mentor them, I can encourage them to have a voice, because mostly we have grown up where we are told, you cannot say anything, decisions are made by men. And I think maybe at the back of my mind, when I sit in some of the meetings where I am the only lady there, I sort of, shy away from speaking. But I've just learned that, do not worry about what the next person is thinking. Just say out your mind. It's up to whoever you're saying to say yes or to say no. So I've learned to sort of put, filters in my ears to try and sift some of those negative voices and the like. So we're trying to encourage. I think we need a lot needs to be done to encourage women to be able to speak up, especially in some of our cultures, in our African cultures especially. And I'm actually surprised that you're saying even in the American culture, because I thought that was a little bit different. But in our African culture, it's like that way. But I think the family that I grew up in, it's mostly actually the ladies who ended up, doing greater things than the males. So because of that, I've learned to, sometimes you just need to speak out. It doesn't matter. It's either someone will say yes or someone will say no. It doesn't matter. So you learn to get out of the shell and start speaking up. So it's something that sometimes you have to be trained. I have to go to leadership training where I have to learn even to speak up and even to do certain things. So if we can encourage women that way, I'm sure a lot will start to speak up, and just listen and encourage them and try to equip them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What would you think? And maybe you can mention some important words that may summarize your recommendations, your advices for the audience, for the young women to be leaders, to become leaders.
Okay, I always like, there's this one African proverb that I like very much. It says that if you think you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent the night with a mosquito. I think you know what a mosquito can do. It can give you sleepless nights. It's small, it's tiny. And so what I want to say is, do not doubt your ability to do big things just because you are a woman. I think it's probably your secret weapon that you can use to chase your dreams. So do not let anyone look down on you just because you are a woman. You can shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you will land among the stars. So nothing is impossible if you just remain focused. And I think that's what I can end up with. So do not stop learning and developing yourself and get support from others.
Thank you so much, Professor. We would like to thank Dr. Julia Sibiya for sharing with us your professional and personal journey in science, teaching, and leadership, being an admirable professor and scientist with amazing and outstanding milestones, fruitful projects, and impressive career. So we feel very honored to have the opportunity to listen to you today. And on behalf of Dr. Brown Goberts, Director General of CIMMYT, we thank you so much for your valuable time, for being here today. Thank you very much for sharing with us your personal rich experience and professional growth. Also, we would like to thank the audience that joined today. Do not miss our following Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science series. Have a nice day and have a nice evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Every child that's born any place in the world should have an equitable opportunity for a full life. And when you see those stark differences, you realize that we're failing at a time when we have so much bounty in the world. There are children that we are failing. Ending food insecurity, ending stunting, it will require collective action. And collective action means local and international actors working together with donors as well as local governments and the private sector, all working together in the planning as well as in the implementation, not of our efforts, but in our results. There was a time when it was not about how the money was spent, it was just about ensuring that the work was performed. That's no longer the case. And every aid organization, as we go into the future, recognizes that donors not only want to see the work performed, the results delivered, but they want to see it performed efficiently and effectively. It's very much about creating food systems that will support the access to nutritious foods for the people in those communities. So it's not just about how much food aid can we move from one part of the world to another. It's about giving people the ability to feed themselves, feed their own families, making that food affordable as well as available.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.